Muramatsu family, my friends at Little Piper, and my flute friends everywhere. And welcome to another Treasure Tuesday. I'm Sharon Sparrow, the assistant principal flutist of the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. And today's treasure is the magical Apre by Gabriel Faure. Thanks to the wonderful people at Muramatsu and at Little Piper, you will be able to download the music today and also download an accompaniment track so you won't need to play alone. And I'm so excited that now I will get to spend the next 10 minutes with you, sharing some important practice and performance tips for this beautiful piece. The translation of Apre means after a dream, and was originally from a set of 3 melodies for solo voice and piano. It is based on a beautiful Italian poem about a dream of romantic flight, where the poet, upon waking, wishes to return to the dream. Although originally intended for voice, this has been arranged for almost every possible instrument imaginable. But I think it is really something special when played on the flute. I want to talk to you about 3 things in this piece before you start practicing it that I think will really help you learn it well. The first is rhythm. There's a rhythm that appears over and over again in this piece, and it's the triplet. It begins in measure 3. Now, triplets can always be tricky, but in this case, they're a little bit even more tricky because they are played constantly against 8th notes. The piano has 8th notes in this entire piece, but the flute will have to play triplets on top of those 8th notes. Well, I have a little trick for you. Let's call the 8th notes apples, and we're going to call the triplets pineapples. So over here, we have the apples. Apples, apples, apples. Over here, we have pineapple, 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 apple, pineapple, apple, pineapple. Now I'm going to enlist the help of my metronome to help with that for a minute, so you'll see exactly what I mean. The metronome is the apples, but I will still be the pineapples over here. Pineapple, 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 apple, apple, pineapple, pineapple, apple, apple. Let me show you what that sounds like on the flute in measure 3. And then again in measure 7. And then again in measure 10. So I hope that helps, because sometimes it is very hard to play those triplets on the flute while the piano is playing the 8th notes. The second thing I'd like to point out to you is the breathing. Everything's about the breath when you play the flute. So sometimes we want to keep our phrase going, but we have to breathe because we need air. So for this, I do a thing called bridge breathing. And I kind of invented that term myself because I like bridges. So what happens is that I build a little bridge in my mind when I'm taking the breath to get from one note over to the next note that's on the other side of the breath. For example, if we look together at measure 6, we have 2 C's, but we have to breathe between them. That is a good place to build a bridge. So I was able to keep my phrase going and take a breath. So what's the opposite of bridge breathing, you're asking yourself? I believe I call those pothole breaths. And I don't know if that's because I live in Michigan or what, But a pothole breath is when you kind of come up to the breath and you fall in a pothole. You have to dig yourself out on the other side. A pothole breath would sound like this there. I kind of left a huge old hole right in the middle of my phrase. So there's several places in this where you'll want to think about some bridge breathing. Now, if you're at the end of a phrase, like in measure 8, you can feel free to just not take your time and breathe, but you don't have to build a bridge there. And then it just goes on after that. So the third thing I'd like to talk to you about before we get to play this is colors. This French music is so colorful. I always think of a painting, those beautiful paintings by Monet when I play this French music. So I try to make different sounds on the flute that might represent different colors, and that makes it so much more interesting. So I remember when my teacher first taught me about colors back in high school, and he used these vowels. So for a bright color, he would put 2 E's together and call it the E sound. And for the dark color, a darker color, he would put 2 O's together for the U sound. Now, that's all well and good, but how do we do that on our beautiful Muramatsu flutes? Well, for the E color, I tend to blow a little bit more down, a little bit more fast, and I use the outside part of my lips. I'm going to show you on a C. For the ooh color, I want to use the part of the inside of my lips where it's not so hard. If you grab your lips and kind of just feel around, you can feel where the gushy part of your lips is. And if the air kind of blows off that part of your lips, bounces off that part of your lips, and it goes a little bit higher, you might get an ooh color. So here's the difference. So those are my E's and my Oo's. But as you're practicing these colors, don't forget about this guy. Because even though you're playing different colors and experimenting with your air, you always have to play in tune. So those are my 3 tips for today. It is getting your rhythm correct, using colors, and applying some bridge breathing. And you will sound so gorgeous on this piece. There's one more thing I want to ask you to do before you play this piece. I really want you to listen to it as it was originally intended, which is for voice. And one of my favorite singers of all time is Miss Renee Fleming. So I'd strongly encourage you to go to the internet and listen to a performance of Renee Fleming singing this piece. It will really affect how you play it. Thank you so much for your time. I really enjoy these Treasure Tuesdays with you. And I want to really thank the people at Muramatsu and Little Piper for making these free, available, and possible. So now I will play Apre and Rev. But since it is one of my favorites and such a beautiful piece, I normally perform for you here in my music studio. But today, I'm going to take you to a little different location. And while I play this piece, you will get to enjoy the backdrop of the beautiful Detroit River. Thanks so much for your time, and I'll see you all again next Tuesday.